Well, howdy everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're still talking about the DRIP Garden within the DRIP network, DRIP ecosystem, and we're going to talk about some comments that Forex Shark, the main developer, the lead developer, made on his most recent AMA, which just happened today. It finished up, I think, maybe 3 hours ago. I was live streaming and I started taking some notes because since I'm most heavily invested in the garden rather than anything else within the network, even though I am a little bit in the farm and I am also in the drip faucet, I wanted to touch on the garden specifically. The comments that Forex Shark made on this AMA were interesting because when it comes to ROI, you know, I did know, or I was aware from his earlier comments and other AMAs and the white paper, that your ROI, the return you're receiving on your investment, is decaying over time. That's on purpose. There's this steady decay that affects what the price of a plant is, a new plant, because that grants more buying power to anyone coming in with new capital when they're adding that into the system, and that's on purpose. And this is based on the contract balance as well as time decay, you know, based on how many days the garden's actually been running. However, something else that we've kind of overlooked and that it's been hinted at, but I just hadn't heard it clarified from the man himself, from Forex Shark. So the other added element there is the gamified portion of the garden, where you are kind of competing, and the way he phrased it was that it's based on the average user of the system. So the average person, however they compound, and I'm saying they, obviously that means the collective of the average. So if the average user is compounding way more than you are, ratio-wise, percentage-wise, obviously we're not talking about straight plant value because everyone's going to have a different number of plants. But if that person is compounding way more than you, and this representative person, which is the average, remember, not a singular person, but if the average is compounding way more than you and harvesting a lot less than you, then your ROI is not going to be at the maximum 3%. It's going to be something less. And so you're going to have trouble, or more trouble, I should say, in outpacing the decay. And we know the decay is a little exaggerated right now because the LP value, if you're looking at dollar amounts, then you're freaking out every day because the LP value is down right now. The actual decay is trending on a pretty steady pace that you could outpace with compounding. But this is a new element that you should consider: is, are you compounding enough? Are you compounding often enough per day to, you know, outpace the average user? You want to be in the top percentage. You want to be in that average as far as compound ratio, so that your ROI doesn't go down. And so a lot of this is direct quotes as I was taking notes from Forex, but I also I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, I'm sure. But this was in reference, Forex was talking about people abusing the dynamic in the garden. And his words were that some people have focused on plant price, and if you try to put price on plants, you'll be misled. He reiterated that it was not a tradable asset. That just represents your ROI. So those who compound will retain ROI, and those not compounding slowly decrease their ability to ROI. And again, remember, this is from Forex. This is what he was just saying on the AMA. So he says, if you focus on the price of plants, you will be under the assumption that you are losing value. Plants only represent the ability to earn ROI in the system, and those who compound always stay ahead of the increasing plant count to make sure they're always at the highest ROI in the system. He says you lose ROI day after day if you don't compound. You lose value in the system if you're not doing some sort of responsible compounding and you're just leeching away from the system. So as long as you're compounding on par with the average user in the system, you are able to maintain the ROI. He did mention that the drip garden balance has increased to all-time highs every month, which we're aware of, which means the performance of the drip garden is increasing and the ability to earn profit is increasing every month, month after month, for those who are compounding at least on par with the average user in the system. So the only people that should be seeing a decline are the people who are leeching more than compounding. And that rewards people for being patient and valuing the time locking of the capital. So Forex does go on to say if you notice your ROI starting to dip, then you're compounding less than the average user. Now, how do you know that you're on that decline, that you're not seeing as much as you should? And what I would say is that you need to keep an eye on your LP per plant. So if we're looking at, we can look at contract, well, hold on, let me rethink this a little bit. You need to see what your daily LP will be. That's really where you need to be looking. The other viewer that drips the scanner, the scan.netlify, this one is the one I've been using more often. I need to send a donation their way so I can keep using that. But yeah, if you look at this right here, so we're not really concerned with the dollar amount because that's going to go up and down depending on the LP value, the token value. What we are concerned with is the LP. You know, how much LP are we getting back? Because this is the set value that we'll be trading in. It's going to represent a different amount based on the LP token value. So look at this 1.047. That's what we need to look at. You know, that's what we're concerned with. Is that increasing every day, or at least on a steady upward trend? 1.047. So let me just go back. We'll jump in here. You know, how far back do we want to go? Maybe 2 days. That'd be probably a good one, somewhere around here. I'll pause myself there. So I can see here I was at 0.973. So regardless of how much this dollar amount increased, I know that I went from 0.973 to 1.047. So over an LP, and I was below an LP. I mean, I know my plants are increasing, but because of the varying amount, the value, you know, that's the main thing we want to follow here. Is my LP increasing? Because remember, this price is good. This is a good gauge of where we'll be. But if you've played with the spreadsheet I've made it all, which I linked to one of the other videos and should be in the description here, just by changing this DRIP BUSD value, this LP token value, you could vary wildly by day. It depends on how high this is going to go. And if you're compounding and playing this game, this is a long-term game. You'll get to a point where this does look good, and you'll want to harvest at least maybe a couple times a week. But even when you're doing that, you're going to keep an eye on your LP value. Because if this starts dropping, if you see, you know, regardless of what the dollar amount is, regardless of what a plant price is, what the plant costs, as Forex said, you know, you're being misled if you're focusing on this price. This does not matter. If you get in and you compound more than the average other person in the garden, you will be making money over time. And if you're getting in with a very small amount, we've kind of learned, you know, the smaller amount's going to take longer. It's going to take 30 days. It's going to take 60 days for you to start seeing that good return, but you have to be compounding. And if you're not seeing this increase on the daily or every couple days, then you may not be compounding often enough. Maybe it needs to be multiple times a day. Maybe it needs to be 3 times, 4 times a day, whatever it is. But you may not be compounding on par or better than the average user. And so that all of that information from Forex does tell us more definitely that he's built something into the code that keeps track of that. So he has some metric. He has a variable saving. I'm assuming it's some type of ratio or percent of compounding to harvesting. And so he is keeping some eye on that, on whatever the average is, and then comparing it to the individual person. So I think that even means that if you just let it sit there and try to let it add up on its own without regular compounding, you're going to be pushed out. You're going to receive less rewards every day because that's how the game's built. It's built to be fair to everyone, but we're also all competing, I suppose, is the way this has been phrased, to make sure that we're one of the better than average compounders that's responsibly compounding back into the system so that we can have an awesome reward for a long time to come And it means that someone trying to let a huge accumulation happen and then pull out a lot of their money at once, that's actually not going to work. They're going to very quickly see a drop in their LP. I don't know how quickly, but they will see a decline every day, which will phase them out of getting any rewards. So that's really good information. That was the main takeaway I had regarding the garden specifically. The AMA was more about the Piggy Bank, which is coming out. But it has similar metrics. It has similar attributes, I should say. He's coded it in a similar way to where you will receive up to a 3% on your piggies just sitting there, your little piglets. But with that up to 3%, that is the same type of game. You have to be compounding more than the other people and kind of keep up with that. Now, I don't know if that type of metric applies to your time-locked stakes. That will, because there'll be time-locked stakes available in the Piggy Bank. So that's something we'll have to see. Maybe the white paper, if it comes out tomorrow, will explain that further. I don't think we have a new white paper yet. If this doesn't include the Piggy Bank, then yeah, he's still working on getting that front end launched. But the Piggy Bank is almost here, so that's exciting. Because you'll put in your max token and then time lock it. But that's all I had on the garden. But that's great confirmation for us, is that, you know, there is some type of metric that measures the ratio of compounding or not, and that's really important to pay attention to. If you're seeing your LP go down, which I'm not, I'm seeing an increase every day. A couple days ago I was at 32. I'm just using dollar amounts as a relative reference, but you saw that earlier video as well. I was at about 32.973. I'm at 1.046, and I'm about 34, almost 35. So it looks like I'm compounding appropriately and continuing on that way. And so this may actually help troubleshoot a little bit. If you come to me and you say, I have 50 plants, for one, that's obviously a lower amount. It's going to take a moment to compound, but you've only been in the garden a week, or you've only been in the garden 2 weeks. I don't think you're up to that 3% yet. I don't think you can just, because if you were able to do that, if you were able to within, say, a week, put 1,000 in and just instantly start receiving 3% without compounding for at least a couple weeks, kind of building up, there may be some metric built in there where you don't hit that average ratio. You're not even fully factored in yet, and it takes a moment to build up. So build up trust in the system, I guess, is one way to phrase it, to show that you're compounding responsibly. So something to think about if you see your LPs not increasing. Words from the man himself, Forex Shark. He built the code, most of it, I'm sure. I mean, he did fork some other games off and then improved upon them. So he didn't write everything from scratch. But I think this metric of the decay and making sure you're on average on par with other people, I think that's kind of new. That's innovative from Forex. So really exciting stuff, and gives you a little more insight, hopefully, into how the garden works. Thanks for watching again. You have a great evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time it is. Subscribe if you haven't already and you like the content. And if you're not invested yet, feel free to use my referral link if you decide to hop in. But I cannot recommend any of these high-risk investments. I'm not a financial advisor. I do not do this for a living. I don't even get paid on YouTube. So definitely do your own research and use your funds responsibly in the way that you think is best. But I'm pretty bullish on the whole system, the DRIP ecosystem, and I'm enjoying it so far, and I like where it's headed. Thanks again. You guys have a great one.